Good evening. This is Rudy Giuliani, and this is the Rudy Giuliani Show, live on, well, I know we're on X, and are we yet on, well, are we on Lindell TV?
Lindell, we should be on
Well,
Lindell.
that's good. Wonderful. I'm glad we're on Lindell TV. Lindell TV is located at CPAC, which is a conservative organization and does very fine work. Maybe ridiculous hesitation on my part because of well, maybe we should just let bygones be bygones, don't you think? Yeah, we will. It's a fine organization. I think it's a lot more exciting in election years, you know, when the candidates go there, and this is sort of a non-election year. But I'm sure it'll be fine. But there's so many other things going on. Oh my gosh! And we're next week we're going to be coming to you from Italy. See what's going on over there. Might get a good read on what the reaction was to the wake-up call that Europe has needed for about 30 to 40 years to grow up and defend itself and become real partners. And all the heat that Trump is taking, as he always does. But I have to tell you, I don't think I'm the only one who knows this story, but there aren't too many that know more about Ukraine than I do. All these people who are criticizing him, even my good friend Mike Levin, you're wrong. As usual, you're going to find, as you did years ago, that you're wrong. And he's right. He's got a better reason for it than you can think. Just think a little. Just think a little about who Zelensky really is. You're going to bet the farm on him? You're going to bet the Ukrainian people on him? People he's double-crossed for a long time? I mean, I'm surprised the president has turned on him as much as he has, and I'm very glad, because I thought in some ways maybe the president was, I shouldn't say forgetting, but we'll get into that in a little while. So all over, they're saying, mostly in a derogatory way, that Trump has called him a dictator. He's in a country in which he is not elected. They say that the Constitution of the country permits it. He shouldn't have permitted it, because the Constitution of the country was the Constitution of a country that is always said to be the second most corrupt country in the world. So you don't continue to follow the practices of the second most corrupt country in the world. If you're an honest man, you change it. I will tell you, and I checked this out today with a person who has been in Ukraine probably, and it comes from that part of the world, but been in Ukraine maybe 50, 60 times. I met him the first time I went there. There hasn't been but one honest president of Ukraine since the day it became free in the 1990s. If you want the list that he gave me, I'm more than happy to give it to you. And Poroshenko tragically fits right in as a crook. He is a guy who was made by a major organized crime oligarch, kind of the central figure in the oligarchs because he laundered all their money, made him a TV star, funded his election, made him a millionaire. Some say a billionaire. I don't know. Some say he has a mansion somewhere here, around here. I haven't found it, so I will just tell you those are rumors. But those rumors come about because he's done very little, but now recently some symbolic things to take on a country whose elite is corrupt from top to bottom. It is a joke. When I went there the very first time, which was in the early part of the new 21st century, I went to my friend John McCain, and I was going to speak to all of Kuchma's prime ministers. Now, Leonid Kuchma was a 8-year president of Ukraine. Like, Zelensky's not 8 years yet; he's 4 years elected, or 5 years elected, and 1 year as a hangover South American dictator. Kuchma, who had 10 years, I was told if I could, John said to me, try to avoid a picture with him because he is a tyrant and he is alleged to have, and you remember that incident a year ago when a reporter had his head chopped off in Ukraine? He's alleged to have done it. And I said, well, did he do it? He said, I honestly don't know. He said, they lie about each other so much. Whenever they get on one side or the other, they call each other Nazis or communists, and you can't keep up with it. Now, of course, that's exactly what the Democrats and even some of our Republicans pick up immediately. The minute you disagree with the government, you're a Nazi, or you're either a Nazi, a neo-Nazi, or you're in favor of Putin. If you say, for example, the obvious, which is we think you should stop this war because you are killing thousands and thousands of your fellow citizens and you aren't going to win. That was true to any reasonable, honest adult about 8 months into the war. So now, and you know, little man, that you're not going to win. Now, why'd you let all your people get killed? And how is it you don't know what happened to $100 million? That's the Ukraine I know. That's the Ukraine that hasn't had but one honest president. You're not one of them, because you got files in your office that would show some of the most horrendous crimes at the highest levels of your government and ours, crimes necessary to reveal so that you can clean out the stable. You got the same stable that was there when your predecessor, Poroshenko, who maybe led the group in bribes, maybe, and you defeated him. And now, just now, you're beginning to raise some questions about him. You got a stone cold bribery case on him you could have made any time you wanted. Kind of like what Biden did with Adams, hang it over his head. And now that you're getting close to maybe having to have an election, you know Poroshenko is going to probably oppose you, and you're going to probably try to put him in jail. But not because he belongs in jail for all the bribes he took. You knew about that 4 years ago. You got the cases in the prosecutor's file. I've seen a few of them. The amount of money that he took is breathtaking. Poroshenko. The amount of money you got from the biggest oligarch, organized criminal in Ukraine is breathtaking. So it would be a waste of money and a waste of lives to leave this country to you if we have a choice. People in Ukraine want you, fine. What can we do? Just not put all our eggs in your basket, because we do not want to put our eggs in the basket of the second most corrupt country in the world. Generally, Russia is thought of as the most corrupt country in the world. You're the second most corrupt country in the world. And I guess, like Russia, your leadership is really the thing that is the most corrupt about you. The leadership of the country is the most corrupt about you. So do we have the president today on the subject of, I don't know exactly who advises you, Mr. Zelensky, but you're not a match for the president of the United States. You're really not. And to make false charges against him and to lie to him is the height of stupidity. Why you want him to trust you in a very, very difficult way, in a way in which he's going to take great risk for his own country? Well, I'm going to tell you, Zelensky, I didn't trust you when you got elected because I knew who put you there. I didn't trust you when I met with your chief of staff in Madrid. I thought you'd lie to us, and you did. And yeah, it was great that you said the conversation with the president was absolutely normal and not illegal. But you had every piece of proof that Biden was a massive crook. You had every piece of proof that Biden took billions out of your country. You sure as hell had every piece of proof that Hunter did, and Devon Archer, and their company. You also had a lot of other proof that you and I know about. And you held it because you're a damn extortionist, a little creep. You just ended up being there during a war, and what did you do? You got your people in a situation where they lost their lives and lost their land, both. Both. Because you couldn't figure out that Biden was double-crossing you, could you? You little jerk. And boy, you sucked up to Biden like crazy. You helped get him elected. You guys helped Hillary get elected. Your ambassador in 2016, your Ukrainian ambassador in Washington, endorsed Hillary Clinton. Your embassy in Kyiv was called the Hillary Clinton Overseas Campaign Office. The biggest contributions to the Clintons, their completely nefarious Clinton Foundation, come from Ukraine. This is nothing against the people of Ukraine, but you can't get to the people of Ukraine because the damn country is so corrupt. And it hasn't changed one bit with you. You're just as corrupt. That's where you come from. That's who made you. And that's the way you're acting now. You told the president that you're going to make a deal on the rare earth of 500 million, 500 billion. I don't remember. It sounded like a really sensible deal to me. We need that in order to keep ahead of China. You know we do. You owe us. And if you want us to stay involved, maybe you should pay for it. What the heck's wrong with that? You paid Europe back. But you didn't pay Sucker Boy back. Well, this isn't Sucker Boy anymore. The difference with this guy is he's not going to promise to help you beat the Soviet Union, Russia, and then leave you there holding your you-know-what in your hand, which is what Biden did to you. Trump would tell you right straight out, I am or I'm not. Just like he's doing right now. So I don't see a future for your country with you. It's not for me to decide the future of your country. It is for me to decide what I think is the best interest of my country. And the best interest of my country is to try to help Ukraine to a point. But while you're there, not to too much of a point, because it doesn't have a goddamn prayer with you there. Why would we let you into NATO or the EU? You are not and never have been a democracy. Every one of your elections is a joke. Well, so was ours, I guess. And every one of your presidents has been a massive crook but one, which we'll get to when we come back, because I've left that as who was the honest president of Ukraine? What was his name and what happened to him? We'll be right back.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
Wow.
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast.
To celebrate the new year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order...
Well, Mayor, the next clip, we got a clip here. We have Zelensky, and I'd love to get your reaction.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
To his comments.
And at some point, what time is the hockey game starting?
8 o'clock on ESPN.
Yeah. I'm really interested in hockey. If I didn't have to do this show, I would go there and go down on the ice and join the Chuck brothers and beating the crap out of those guys who wouldn't stand for the
But we'll play President Trump's
United States national anthem.
We'll
Canada, you wouldn't be eating if it wasn't for us. Good. What's the little guy saying?
Yeah, we gotta get the volume up on here.
He doesn't talk loud because he probably doesn't have big enough lungs.
Right.
Someone who we respect a lot as a leader of the nation that we really respect, the American nation, who supported us all the time. Unfortunately, he lives in a disinformation space.
Mayor, what's your reaction to that, Mayor?
Well, I honestly couldn't hear all of it.
Okay.
I heard it earlier today in which he said it's unfortunate that we live under Donald Trump and it's unfortunate that he lives in a disinformation bubble.
Yeah.
The problem is, a little guy, he lives in an information bubble. He knows all about you because his good friend has seen your file. You are like your predecessors, you're a dishonest man. Now, I don't know how big a crook you are. I'm not going to accuse you of being a crook because I don't know what kind of kickback you've gotten. I do know that one of the most crooked men, if not the most crooked man in the history of Ukraine, made you a millionaire and a multimillionaire. That's a problem. I do know you brought him back to Ukraine when nobody else wanted him back in Ukraine. I do know that he could tell us every person that was laundering money from Ukraine in the last 15 years. I know you have in your files the offshore bank accounts of more than a few American politicians who have offshore bank accounts at the Privat Bank. And I've seen a sample of them. I haven't seen all of them. I was teased with it by your police. I know, that your predecessor received a bribe that if I told the people the amount, they wouldn't believe me. I know it was delivered in three installments. And I know you can prove it because you got the witnesses who are willing to testify to it. And you got people from your government wanting to turn you in because they don't like you. You covered up everything Biden did. Everything. You know the whole story. You know the whole story of how Shokin was fired. You know the whole story of how Manafort was framed. You know the whole story of the crooked FBI agent that went to work for Soros. You know the whole story of your country during the 2016 election, overtly supporting Hillary Clinton, including your ambassador, who you didn't bring back, endorsing her. And then the money that she put in to frame Trump, much of it was with the help of your government officials under the direction of a guy named Chiarella. Oh, who's Chiarella? 4 years later, he was the so-called whistleblower that was produced or not produced when they found out there was a transcript that made him a complete liar. Now, none of these people have been held to account, and this story has not been told in a particularly credible or intelligent way, because first it was covered up, and then the House committee handling it had a less than competent chairman who fouled it all up, screwed it all up, and then blamed everybody else, even though all you had to do is read the hard drive, which he didn't bother to read. Like never emphasizing the fact that Hunter Biden paid for all the expenses of the family for 30 years, that Hunter Biden gave and admitted in writing that he gave 30% of his salary to his father. And here we go around people saying, oh, Joe Biden got no money. You probably could tell us what Joe Biden was doing in Ukraine the last 3 or 4 days that he was vice president. I know what he was doing. I'm not allowed to say it because I can't prove it. But you can prove it because you got the files. I know you can locate the offshore bank accounts, and you're hiding it. You're a damn crook. And you're running a country, and it's showing. When you started, I felt sorry for you. I've seen crooks that can be patriots. You even have even your partner there, the guy that gave you all the money, is the biggest crook in Ukraine, was a patriot and saved the city, Kolomoisky. It's a weird thing. I don't know if you know this about the Ukrainians. First of all, you separate these bums from the Ukrainian people. I never probably liked any place I was in much more than I did Ukraine. I love the people. I love the people at Kharkiv. Every time I see that they defeat the Russians, I cheer like they were Americans. These are wonderful people. I love them. I really do think it's the worst government I've ever dealt with. Now, I never dealt with the Russian government. I met Putin a couple of times and I think I've been in Russia twice. Never wanted to do business there. Never wanted to touch it. I thought about it at the beginning, and then I realized, how corrupt it is. And I limited what I did in Ukraine to people that I knew from America, like Vitaly Klitschko, the former heavyweight champ, who was my client. So I think the president is nailing you for who you are, because this has got to get straightened out long term. And again, it's the people of Ukraine that's got to decide. All we can do is have an opinion on the wise use of our own resources and money. You are not a wise investment, my friend. You're just an investment in. I want you to look at the board for a minute. I wrote that out. Not too nice, but that's what you get when you're sitting there trying to get a guy who's an expert on Ukraine to tell you. I said to this gentleman who is an expert on the Ukraine, please tell me I'm wrong. But as I think back, and you know the Ukraine better than I do, and you were there when I spoke to all the prime ministers, isn't it true that there's been only one honest president of Ukraine? And he said yes. Now let me show you the presidents of Ukraine since it became free. Put that up. I know it's terrible, but put it up. Leonid Kravchuk. He was the first and rather nondescript and corrupt as hell. Kuchma, Leonid, also Leonid, but now I put down the name Viktor Pinchuk because Viktor Pinchuk is one of the richest men in Ukraine, plays both sides, and is the biggest contributor to the Clinton Museum, bigger than any other rich man in the world. And Ukraine has given more to the Clinton Museum than any country in the world, which is weird for a small country. Tells you how corrupt it is. Now, in 2003, 2004, you had the Orange Revolution. People were really upset with Kuchma. He was a semi-dictator, mostly, taking hundreds of thousands and millions and billions for himself and his family. Victor is his son-in-law, Viktor Pinchuk. So there was an election between Viktor Yushchenko and Viktor Yushchenko. I know, very hard. Yushchenko was the one honest man in Ukraine that John McCain pointed out to me. He was married to a wonderful woman from Chicago. He was a man with a financial background. He was very, very sophisticated, very smart, very classy, an expert on ancient wars and armaments. I spent a wonderful day in his apartment with my wife and stepdaughter. This is the man who was poisoned probably by Putin, because he was the one man that probably could have stood up to Putin. And he's the one man that could have brought out the morale of his people because they wouldn't have their heads down knowing that the president of their country is a damn crook. Well, Yeroshenko defeated him in the election, but the election was determined to be crooked by an outside group of observers, possibly Jimmy Carter and Baker. I don't remember the group. And when that news got out, the Orange Revolution began. And literally, they overthrew the government, got a new election. But while the campaigning was going on, one night, Mr. Viktor Yushchenko almost died. He had to be rushed to Austria to be treated because no one trusted his being treated in a Ukrainian hospital. And two great doctors saved his life. But for many years, he was severely impaired, meaning his face was pockmarked, his speech was halting. He ran anyway. He became president anyway. And it was a very, very disappointing presidency. All the things that people thought would happen didn't happen. And not because Viktor was dishonest. God forbid he wasn't, because Viktor was disabled. And the government was deteriorated really quickly. And then that guy Yeroshenko, who ran against him, who was a puppet of Putin from the very beginning, won. Ukraine used to be divided into roughly half pro-Ukraine going west, half pro-Ukraine going east. In other words, half pro-Europe and America, half pro-Russia. Remember, many Ukrainians are ethnically Russian, at least half. Viktor, I don't know if either one of the Viktors are. I know Viktor Yushchenko is all Ukrainian. Vitaly Klitschko is part Russian, but Ukrainian through and through in terms of a Ukrainian patriot. It's that way. Some people are part Russian and they're more, or they used to be more ambiguous about it. And some Ukrainians are very pro-Russia, or used to be. A lot of that's changed since the Orange Revolution. Now let's look at this one more time. I know Ted is having a very difficult time with the fact that it isn't beautiful, but so in 2009, Yanukovych again wins. Now Yanukovych is the Russian Ukrainian. He's doing business and a massive, massive thief. Just remember, when Yanukovych ran away, there was $800,000 left in the Bank of Ukraine, not to be distinguished with Privat Bank, which was Zelensky's rabbi's bank. That's Mr. Kolomoisky. But it was through that bank, through that Privat Bank, that 100 billion went through. Yanukovych took out, people think, about 20, 30 billion for himself. And he fled to Moscow, where he is now living as a puppet of Putin. They bring him out every once in a while to say something. You know, Ukraine caused a war, or Ukrainians understand Putin would be wonderful for you, stuff like that. However, when he won the second time in 2014, there was a distinct feeling that once again he had cheated. And by the way, Obama had a good relationship with him. Now, it is true the State Department was trying to take him out, but Obama, and there's a whole story that, again, I can't tell you because all I have are rumors and little facts here and there, but I can't put it together. But when it happened, the people rose up, and Yanukovych and his entire administration, which included the guys who paid off the Bidens, and that guy was Yanukovych's secretary or commissioner or minister of energy, who gave his own company illegally all the best properties. And when he came out, he was going to be under investigation, and he hired the Bidens to fix the case with him, because the case was then going to fall to the last name that you see there, 2014, Mr. Poroshenko. Now, Poroshenko was the president that was there throughout the end of the Obama administration. And Poroshenko was well known in all of Ukraine to be, they say, the biggest crook of all, of that group that I showed you, where they had only one honest one. And he was a kind of guy that wanted to put his nose into every deal, sort of like the guy who wetted his beak in The Godfather. And they all hated him. And Kolomoisky put up the money. That's the most crooked oligarch in the country, who was exiled, by the way, to elect the puppet Zelensky, who was an actor, a comic actor, a lawyer at one point, but a comic actor with no qualifications at all to lead a country, no qualifications to fight a war, and not the same as a trained KGB agent in the country next to him. And you can see kind of a Weasley kind of guy. Play this game, play that game, play this game, play that game. Also becoming a millionaire on the heels of a guy who laundered away your entire country. You see, when they take this money, that's why the Ukrainians are poor. You Ukrainians should know these are your biggest villains. Yeah, sure, Putin's a real villain. He comes in and he kills and he rapes and he does all those things, and there's nothing that can defend that. But the reason you're vulnerable to that is from within. You've got a completely corrupt government that Zelensky did nothing to change until recently. He put some people in jail. Recently, but he hasn't revealed anything. He's sitting on massive bribery on so many people. He could take them all down, and you could start fresh. But you got to get rid of him, or you're going to be a corrupt country. And then just how far do we or the rest of Europe want to go for you? You know, you're not really part of us like you've been part of Russia all the time, right? You want to become part of us. We'd love to have it happen. And we'd love to take you all in, but not with a bunch of mafia guys at the top. What do we want that for? Maybe they'll kill us. So I think the president is doing us a service by delivering tough love and trying to get this done right. Do we have anything else from the president on this, or the little man?
So we have.
After the little man excoriated the president, thinking that this was going to get him somewhere, does he actually think he's going to get Europe on his side? After Vance delivered a knockout punch, all of them have been. Macron is raising an army. I don't know if he knows how to raise an army, but he's raising an army. Even the socialist in Great Britain is going to put in troops. The people in Germany, sub Rosa, would rather have Trump than anybody they have there.
Let's play. This is JD Vance responding to Zelensky's comments.
Oh, God, that's a real match.
You said yesterday, you made a lot of news, bad-mouthing Trump, not a good idea. Or Zelensky. What's the thought process there? Well, look, I mean, President Zelensky, his country wouldn't exist without the generosity of the United States of America. So say thank you. And if you disagree with the president, pick up the phone and call him or call one of our great diplomats. Don't go on a media tour around Europe bad-mouthing the president of the United States. It's insulting. It's insulting to him. It's insulting to me. It's insulting to the American people. And by the way, it's stupid. All of us who know the president would tell you that bad-mouthing him in public is not the way.
Yeah, right.
He needs to have some better consultants. So you said yesterday, you made a lot of news, bad-mouthing.
I would say you're not going to win too many friends and people by bad-mouthing them anyway, no matter who they are. But if it's Donald Trump, he has this, what do you call it, memory. And by the way, he knows you're a big crook anyway. And he knows you're surrounded. He knew from the day you got elected your whole background. He warned me about going to meet your chief of staff. And then you brought me up in the conversation he did. When he said, "Oh yeah, you said, well, we could meet like with like Giuliani. He knows a lot about this." And he said, "Yes, right. He knows a lot about it." He wasn't too enthusiastic from my point of view. From me, am I going to meet you? Because he had very good information. The people around you were, well, kind of like the people I used to put in jail all the time. So looks like Hamas again did something horrendous. So all day today, right? They've been reporting that Hamas has delivered the Bibas family. That's the two children. They were 2 and 4 or 5 when they were taken from Israel, from the kibbutz, with their mother and father, but separated. And all this time, the father and the rest of the Bibas family didn't know whether or not the children and the mom were alive. And up until yesterday, conflicting reports. So, for example, Hamas told the Israeli government, I believe the Israeli government announced that the two children, Kiefer and Ariel, and the mother Shiri, were going to be returned today. Kiefer was 9 months when he was taken. Ariel was 4. Not clear when they died, said the article today. Now, Ofri Bibas, Shira's sister-in-law, said yesterday or today in a statement that I wondered about when I saw it. She said she slammed the Israeli government for buying the story that they were all dead, because she said they manipulate and lie so much, because they've been told they were dead, they were alive, they were dead, they were alive. Hamas is pathologically sadistic as well as animalistic. And well, the body they delivered today is not Shiri Bibas's body. In other words, it's the wrong woman. When they went to get it ready for burial, because I imagine these people are religious Jews, it seems that way, and therefore they would bury within 24 hours. I imagine the 2 children were correct, tragically, but the body they delivered was not Shiri Bibas's body. What? I mean, is this like North Korean torture? What do you want to do? Just completely destroy these people? You've had them, 2 years, 2.5 years. You either sent back the wrong body or killed the wrong person. All this is going to do now is raise the hopes of Ofri and of the rest of the family. It's a big family and a beautiful family. It's going to raise their hopes that Shiri is alive, even if it is for a day, or maybe she is alive. How do I know? I sure as heck am not going to announce based on you that she's dead. Now, having said that, why would we even believe that 10,000 civilians were killed? Why would you tell the truth about that? You don't tell the truth about anything. You took these children and held them probably below the earth without any food. I mean, the people who came back who looked like Holocaust survivors said they were lucky if they were fed every 3 or 4 days. I mean, there are conditions for prisoners of war. You violated every one of them. It's an international crime to defy those conditions. But because the UN is one of your allies and the International Court of Justice belongs to you, represents part of the terrorist movement, none of your people are being tried for this. I mean, there should be hundreds of you on trial for running these prisons. Yeah, those of you who took terrorists should all be arrested if you're not dead yet. You're not allowed to take hostages in a war. Yep, you're allowed to take prisoners. But you can't display them that way and try to use them for bargaining. That's a war crime. Where are all the Hollywood people that want Bibi Netanyahu prosecuted for doing everything he can not to kill civilians, and not the people who kidnapped civilians? Kidnapping is not a legitimate part of a war. You don't kidnap. But if you get away with it, you do. How did this world turn so much against Israel and so much in favor of these animals? People in the region don't. That's why it's very, very hard for Trump to solve this problem. It was brilliant when he said he would take over Gaza, because the Egyptians won't take him, the Jordanians won't take him. So now we're going to have a release on Saturday. It's supposed to be 2 more than they had promised, but the 2 of them look like they were hostages from further back, not exactly October 7 hostages. It could be at least 1 more dead body released. And who knows? It means there are still 30 more. What is this? This is just sadism, right? The president looked beyond impatient, as would be a mild word with this today, when he saw this. I wonder what his reaction now is when he finds out that the mother is not even the mother. Do we have the clip of him reacting, Ted, to the children returning?
Well, it's what we have is a screenshot here that kind of shows what he reportedly told advisors behind closed doors.
Oh, it wasn't on video? What did he say?
Well, this is what this person claims was said. Again, we're still looking.
Okay, let's report it.
President Trump told his advisors after witnessing the return of the dead bodies that he wants to see Gaza wiped out. He doesn't want to see one building standing. The question is, we got to get that verified. So this is it right here.
That's a picture of him when he was he was in a private room, though, and that's a picture of him in the private room when he made that statement, where he was looking at the videos that Bibi had supplied to him of the young children and of Shiri Bibas, who turns out not to be Shiri Bibas. I wonder, maybe I should call him later and ask him what his reaction is to that. This underscores the wisdom from day one of Netanyahu saying they have to be destroyed, like the Nazis. This is not a conditional peace. This is not we're negotiating 30 here and 20 here and 5,000 in exchange for 30. That's probably Kiefer before she was kidnapped. Nothing from the International Court of Justice, huh? Nothing, not a word. That's okay. You can take a kid, kill it. It's all right. And you know Israel does everything it can not to kill civilians because they know it's used, among other things. First of all, they're humane, decent people who are products of Judeo-Christian society and not part of a religion founded by a murderer. There is a difference. If you don't know the difference, it could be hard to protect us in this world. And if you're part of the other side, you're a real problem. So Saturday, we've got the rest released. I would recommend to Hamas or to the Palestinians, give them all back now. I don't know how long Trump is going to wait. This wasn't his deal. This was the Biden deal, this ridiculous 2-month exchange of people, just so more people can die. Because Biden doesn't care. He's killed so many people, he wouldn't give a damn who's dead. He's probably enjoying his ice cream right now, not even knowing what the hell he's doing, probably watching cartoons. Just to take a good look at who's really in charge. Iran yesterday. Why these people do this, I do not know. But a British couple, and God bless them, I feel so sorry for them. Craig and Lindsay Foreman crossed from Armenia, which is okay, safe country, fairly safe, if they're not being attacked by the Turks who would like to start the genocide again, or the Azerbaijans who are the allies of Russia and the allies of Turkey, but Muslims. So I don't know how much of an ally they really are of Russia. Those Muslim allies and Russia. There's something that my knowledge of foreign policy and history and religion tells me you could split that up pretty damn fast if you had a State Department that wasn't 85% Democrat and 85% poorly educated at Ivy League schools. If you had a State Department made up of patriotic Americans who were a little streetwise, I think I could figure out a way to split those guys. They don't like each other. But in any event, Azerbaijan attacks Armenia regularly. Of course, Turkey helps to fund them to do it. And Turkey took a shot at eliminating all of the Armenians. But Erdogan does not own up to it. Erdogan is he's a poor man's Putin. So Craig and Lindsey Foreman they were traveling across Armenia, and they're trying to, I don't know if they were trying to get to Pakistan or doing something or other. Last year they did a trip in Australia. Craig and Lindsey, it's a little safer in Australia. They went into Iran. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard grabbed them as quickly as possible, the city of Kerman, and has arrested them. And they're now under arrest on the suspicion that they were gathering intelligence through the country and posing as tourists. Now, from everything I can tell, no. But they are in the hands of an insane government. And the last thing you want is for that insane government to have nuclear weapons. And it's about time we get rid of the Ayatollah, we get rid of the mullahs, and we let that government, we let those people put together a government that they want, but not one that's going to endanger us. So I don't know. We shouldn't interfere in the internal affairs of a country unless that country every day, every Friday, says a prayer to dedicate themselves to killing us. Every Friday. Government like that, we have every right to try to overthrow. And I do think it's been a failing of our presidents and our government to let the Ayatollah stay there that long. Should have been gone sometime during the Reagan administration. And then if not that, during Clinton. And then the new one should have been gone right away. He probably murdered more of his own people than the Ayatollahs. Probably, only because there's a lot more of them to murder. They come in a good second, and per capita, who the hell knows? The United States set off a rocket yesterday that was meant to demonstrate and to show to the world that our intercontinental ballistic missiles are superior, that they can protect us, and that this is just the tip of the iceberg because Trump has put our development of our defense, both our traditional defense and our computer AI portion of it, on Trump time. So I don't know, China, you've been spending a lot more than us and moving a lot faster, but I don't know if we haven't caught up to you already. But you're not going to beat us. As he lets the American people know how far behind the Democrats have gotten us, because so many of them are infiltrated by particularly China. I mean, how is it that we elected a president that got in the couple of years before he was president, got somewhere between $21 and $31 million from China? Now, if you don't want to believe he got that money, despite the fact that his son said he did, had a family who got that kind of money? Isn't it just about the same thing? And creates just about the same conflict of interest? And doesn't it explain the extraordinarily insane act of giving up the airbase 400 miles from China? That would give us a great strategic advantage in the aerial warfare that is the future, or at least part of the future. Well, Trump has a big job in catching up, and he will. Let me also remind you that Trump has fired all of the U.S. attorneys, which means that now that Kash Patel, who's been confirmed by the Senate, of course, by a party line vote, is going to take over. And I don't have high expectations for him. I have through the roof expectations for him. I think he is the best choice for that job at this time that you could find. And I think he will restore it to its former glory, integrity, honesty, like it was when I worked with him, and we made more cases in 7 years together than have been made almost in a whole century. And I credit a lot of my success with the mafia, with crooked Wall Street people, with about half of Koch's administration and lots of Democrats and Republicans in a city where prosecuting corrupt politicians is like, gee, if you don't do it, you're crooked. But I did it with the help of the 2 greatest law enforcement organizations in the world, the NYPD and the FBI. And when you get them to work together, and they did with me, they're just unbeatable. And Kash will be able to do that. He'll be able to work with the new police commissioner. She seems like a real improvement too. She seems like the best commissioner they've had since Kelly. And I think he'll find a real he'll find a real partner there. I talked to Kash very briefly today and congratulated him. I'm so happy for him, and I'm so happy that he's going to be helping to guide our new president to accomplish one of the great things he has to accomplish: to flip not just that agency, to make us a country that once again is looked upon as a country with equal justice for all. Because now it's just a worn out, trashed, destroyed slogan that doesn't apply to us. Not with the things that have happened to the political enemies of Joe Biden or the Democratic Party. So we'll be back tomorrow, of course, and we'll see what's happening tomorrow. I intend to do one podcast, probably in the 8 to 9 o'clock hour, but we'll see. I'm going to do it and explain to you so that you understand that the intricacies of these cases that are being brought against Trump to deprive him of his executive power, and why it's lawfare continued in a different context, but the same lawfare, the same funding, the same ultimate communist purpose in trying to deprive us of an executive officer and tie his hands up. Remember, 4 indictments in 1 year, absolutely never happened before. I've never seen these number of cases being brought against a new president. And then the judges are giving out TROs left and right, with one exception. Judge Chutkan, you gave him a really unfair trial, beyond even comparison, when you were handling the case involving January 6th. I mean, you were about as unfair as any judge, with a couple of exceptions. Your chief judge is much more unfair and dishonest than you are. But your decision in the Doge case, in which they're seeking to get documents, and these people came in complaining, and you said, well, you can't get a temporary restraining order. You haven't shown irreparable injury. You haven't shown any injury. Gee, you know how good I felt that the law is back? You know how many times you ignored things like that when Trump was there? Do you know how many times your chief judge ignored things like that in my case? But that's good. I mean, that's good. The rest, we don't forget. And I don't think the man who became FBI director has a deficiency in terms of memory, because he lived through it. And when you live through it, you understand the need, not for vengeance. My God, no. That just makes you a smaller person. But you understand the need for justice so it doesn't happen again, and deterrence. So pray for the people who are at war, and their fate is in the hands, really, of Donald Trump and God. And also, come back tomorrow. We'll be on at 7 here, and we'll be on at 8 on X, and we'll be on at 8 on X now. And we'll be talking about the hockey game, and we'll be talking about
8 o'clock
what's going on with Adams in New York and why that's another extension of lawfare. God bless America. It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply our God-given common sense. So let's. The Tunnel to Towers Foundation delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please.
To celebrate the new year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand.
This is America's Mayor Live, which is, for all of you on X, a continuation of the Rudy Giuliani show. So thank you for being with us. I know we spent a good deal of the show on Zelensky the dictator, Zelensky the crook, Zelensky the dishonest man, Zelensky the enemy of his own people. Because when you allow that kind of corruption to take place, the money goes to the elite and is kept from the people who are allowed to starve. And if you've been in Ukraine, there are people starving in Ukraine. Of course, that was even before the war. And yes, we credit you with fighting off the Russians, but we also don't credit you when the handwriting was on the wall, not being willing to find a way to end this thing and just pull down the money, billions after billions. And now you tell us 100 billion is missing now? And you expect us to believe you? I mean, you're in the most second or third most corrupt country in the world. It hasn't changed one bit since you got there. Might have got worse. Might have gotten a little better. It's essentially the same. You've done nothing to change it. You've further eroded any confidence we have in you by the lying, by withholding the fact that the money wasn't coming to you, if that's true at all, by not insisting that it be audited when Biden would give it to you that way, and by retaining all of the evidence of crimes committed by the highest officials of your government and ours. I know how much you have. So to you, as a former U.S. attorney, I believe you're a criminal. You don't withhold stuff like that if you're not a criminal. I don't know if you personally take a lot of money. You sure took a lot of money from the most crooked man in Ukraine. He made you a millionaire or billionaire. You don't have to walk around in those things you do to make yourself look. You don't look like a soldier. I mean, if soldiers in Ukraine look like you, Russia wouldn't be deterred at all. Well, thought it was a big mistake for you to attack our president today. Desperation of having lied to him about the rare earth and the deal for that, and then offer the same deal to the Europeans. You don't think they're going to tell them? You don't think the Europeans are more interested in what they say in ingratiating themselves to Trump than to you? You're a failing dictator. You got a country that tried to win and lost. You've been a loser for over a year. And now you're a dictator. You're hanging on without an election. Yeah, it's in your Constitution. It shouldn't be in your Constitution. Your Constitution is the result of a country where you haven't had an honest president but one from the day you were born. That's going to leave a pretty rotten Constitution. Well, tonight, there's a hockey game, and I hope we can continue to give you various scores from it and maybe even break in on it a little bit. I really did want to see the beginning of it, which is right now. You remember a couple of days ago, these two teams, this is called nobody paid attention to this happen. The Four Nations Face-Off Team, USA Hockey Bandwagon. So there are four nations. I can't even tell you who the other two are. The United States and Canada. You know who the other two are, Ted?
I'm going to go ahead and I think this is a relatively new tournament, right?
Yeah, four nations.
I'm guessing. I don't know.
Russia?
I would. Oh, you don't know either?
No.
I'm guessing Sweden.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I'm going to say.
You don't think they'd have Russia in because of the politics of it? I mean, they would be the logical team.
You're right. They would be. And Finland, I'll say. Let's see.
Interesting. Let me see. Now, I have this article here, and Ted, you looked.
I swear I didn't. I swear.
You swear? Yeah. Get out a Bible.
Give me a Bible.
Vanessa, get a Bible.
This is a guy that
knows.
Whatever
he's.
This is a guy that knows hockey, Mayor.
It's in the.
I know sports.
It's in the study over on the right. I got about 4 of them.
Wow,
get it out.
I'm happy you asked me.
He's a Christian, so we can get him this. Well, lucky we don't have to get out like a.
I got one right for once. Not for once.
So yeah, it's Finland and Sweden.
Anyone that knows hockey wouldn't be surprised.
Russia was barred since the invasion of Ukraine.
Yeah. Well, should have thought about that.
Well, because the hockey players didn't invade. You say you should. Yeah, of course they should have thought about it. But the hockey players didn't invade. The hockey players didn't invade Ukraine.
Yeah, they weren't part. You're
Who knows? They may be against it. A lot of
Yeah.
people in Russia are against it.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
Look, I mean, you think Russia isn't quite the communist dictatorship that it used to be. He retains control as the president for life dictator.
Yeah.
But he doesn't retain the same mind control that happened during the communist era, or the same mind control that you'll find in, I guess the biggest you'll find is in North Korea,
Right.
where they have only one television network. Russia, you can pretty much communicate to, and they can communicate out of it. And it's hard to get out,
Mhm.
but not impossible. And it's not that hard to get in. I mean, or is China for that matter.
Well,
The only country that's really isolated, and Iran is pretty isolated. Iran is pretty, I would say, in the ones that I know, just generally, and the ones that are the primary nations, large, primary nations, the most isolated is North Korea, then Iran, then China, then Russia, in that order. But any of those places I don't recommend for travel.
right. Well, the president placed a very special call into Team USA and the hockey team.
Well, I mean, people realize that when they had the first hockey game in Montreal, so here the Americans are on foreign soil, and they played the American national anthem. The Canadians booed, and then of course the national anthem of Canada was played, and three of the American players decided that we had it. And as soon as before the hockey even started, they went and started beating the crap out of the Canadian teams, and they had a sort of a one at a time. And two of them are brothers, Matthew and Bradley Tkachuk. And also Matthew Tkachuk went after Brandon Hagel. And
We have that.
but I'm interested in knowing, did they do it again? Now the president called them today to wish them the best.
So this was last week.
And Matthew was interviewed today or yesterday, and he was at the White House a couple weeks ago. He's apparently one of us, Ted.
That's right.
Well, just much better at hockey, maybe. So this is what you're seeing now on the screen. These are the fights that took place immediately as the puck dropped on Saturday night in Montreal. So this is kind of the backdrop. This is the semifinal game, as the mayor
They're gonna
mentioned.
let them fight too.
They let them go for a minute, a little bit. The fight early on, that was not much of a hockey fight, but they kind of started.
That was a real
swinging
fight.
little bit. It ended, yeah. You can see the Canadians are getting all excited. But so that was the fighting that took place, and then next,
But there were two more.
yeah, there were. So we'll get some audio on here.
Oh, that also important. They won the game 3-1.
Yes, Team USA.
Now this is the game last week.
Yes.
We got another fight.
This might be a replay of the first one,
Oh,
but this is the next one.
is that his
These
brother?
guys are fighting, yeah.
Oh,
They're
he
swinging.
got the best
Okay,
of it
that's
for
a
sure.
fight right there.
Yeah. Oh, wow, good left hook.
Oh, these guys
This
are
guy knows how
fighting.
to fight.
Yeah, they're John.
Oh
This is
yeah,
real.
he looks in a lot better shape.
Wow.
Here it goes. The two brothers are in the same penalty box.
Wait, they're on the.
Well, that's the first one again.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at the first one again.
So then, wow.
The second one, I mean, he knew how to box. This
They redid the.
is the third one, I think.
This is the third one. Yeah, they had to redo the face off. Oh, and they just dropped right away. So are these the sons of Keith Tkachuk?
I think so. Let's look at it. Well,
that
when we
would
get
be
when we take the next break. Wow.
Oh, now see? Okay, this is a fight. That first one.
No, the first one.
Yeah,
Oh, he took him down.
Yeah. And they break it up when someone goes down.
Yeah, because he's gonna pound him.
So this was what we saw in Canada last week. And again, this came right at. So let's play the opening of the game.
Oh, when they booed the national anthem?
Kind of quiet booing.
Oh, I can hear it, but yeah.
Not
Yeah,
like
I
a chorus of boo. Not like a Yankees Red Sox game when
Yeah.
when the
But I'd
Red
like to
Sox are
see
off
the
the bat.
reaction. I'd like to see the reaction of. It's too bad there are no close-ups. I tell you, whoever sang it doesn't have much of a voice. Oh my God, he hasn't hit a note. Where do they find that guy?
And then let's play. This is President
What,
Trump.
what do they
today.
have? A frog?
Here's President Trump today calling Team USA.
Well, I'll talk to the guys if they're around. Yeah, they are. I'm going to walk into the locker room right now, and you can speak to the guys firsthand. Mr. President, can you hear me? I can. You guys are really talented. I have great respect for hockey players. I'm a hockey fan. I love hockey. The talent, the skill that you have is great. And just go out and have a good time tonight. And I just want to wish you a lot of luck. You really are a skilled group of people. It's an honor to talk to you. And get out there, and there's no pressure.
He knows some of them.
Every person in here, players, staff, management, coaches, we're all proud Americans, and we want to represent our country the best way we can and do our best to bring in a win tonight. Thank you again on behalf of everybody. You just go out and have a good time. You're going to win, and we love America. We love you guys. We'll be watching tonight. Bring it on. Thank you.
Isn't that nice?
Now he didn't mention the fight. He was very, very smart. Matthew Brendan Tkachuk is an American professional ice hockey forward and alternate captain for the Florida Panthers of the National Hockey, the reigning Stanley Cup champs. He previously played in the NHL for the Calgary Flames. The Flames selected him in the first round, 6th overall. So he's been a hockey star from being a kid. And he goes back to the 2016 NHL entry draft. And he's now 27 years old. 27 years old. So that's pretty good for a guy that's played since 2016, huh? He's a right winger, number 19. And it looks like he came to the Panthers only in 2022. And he went to Chaminade College Preparatory School, which is Catholic school, run by, I believe, the Irish Christian Brothers. And his parents are Keith Tkachuk and Chantel Oster. And his siblings are Bradley Tkachuk and Taryn Tkachuk. Keith Tkachuk is a member of the St. Louis Blues Hall of Fame. He was inducted in 2024. He played for the Blues for 9 seasons. He was a key player known for his goal scoring and grit. He played in 5 NHL All-Star games and was named to 2 NHL overall All-Star teams. He scored 538 goals, 527 assists, and he had 1,065 points in just 1,200 games. His sons, Matthew and Brad,
Yes, so we were right.
and Brady, broke the news to him that he would be inducted into the Blues Hall of Fame.
Wow.
He's one of only 4 eligible players who are not members of the Hockey Hall of Fame. He is among the highest scoring players in NHL history who are not in the Hall of Fame. I think that'll be taken care of pretty soon.
Yeah.
And we'll can you get anything on the game?
So that's right. The game, which you'll all want to tune into right
Now,
after the show.
Now, Brady, who's the younger brother, he's 25 years old. Brady is a left winger. His brother is a right winger. I wonder if that happened when they played together. And captain of the Ottawa Senators of the National Hockey League. He was chosen by the Senators as the 4th overall pick in the 2018 draft. And he's 6'4". He was the first one you saw fighting. His older brother was the second one that you saw fighting. And he has only played for the Ottawa Senators. Same mother and father. And he's a sibling. Very good-looking young man, too. But the older brother was at the White House about a week or two ago, met with the president.
Really?
Yeah. He's a big supporter.
Oh, wow.
I imagine I don't know about the brother and the father but he's a big supporter.
What was he doing at the White House? That's interesting.
Just came to meet him. You know how the president loves sports figures.
Oh, I see. Okay, Keith, the old man,
Oh, I'm going to tell you,
Keith Kachuk.
no, not the old man,
Oh, the kid.
Matthew,
You know, and hockey player.
the first fighter, the guy, the guy
known for being good golfers too.
Oh, maybe he played golf with him.
Maybe. You know, I was hockey.
Maybe he played golf with him.
I'm the only hockey player that can't golf.
Yeah, I bet you. Oh
I'm not
my
a
gosh,
golfer.
I could
can
get
play
you.
hockey, but I can't.
I've
golf.
taken a few hockey players, and my friend Denny Young was a hockey player, and boy, he
You
was just a natural golfer. Wow, you know why? Much easier transition for a hockey player than a baseball player.
Yes.
The swing is more fluid,
Right.
and the wrist movement is very similar. The ring, whereas a baseball swing, not for all baseball players, but for many, is a little more jerky, and a lot of baseball players tend to try to apply more pressure right at the time they're hitting the ball, which you would think could be a good thing. It isn't. The golf ball has to be hit with a uniform swing, and the reason you should have the most power when you hit the ball is at the bottom. It's because it's the bottom of the arc of your swing, not because you jerk it to hit faster. If you jerk it to hit faster, you have one of those famous off to the left, off to the right, and there you are, and you can't find your ball. So,
Right.
what are they doing to Eric Adams? They're treating him like he's a Republican. Now, this whole thing with Eric Adams is completely contrived. I'm not Eric Adams' defense lawyer, nor am I, as you know, an out-of-control Eric Adams fan. Having been the former mayor of New York, there are, in many ways, things that I am exceedingly disappointed about with him. There are also things that I'm not. And I have to say, as a realistic human being who looks at the field, particularly the Democratic field, the rest is like, oh gosh, let's go to China, probably smarter. They are completely out of their effing minds. I mean, these are people who do memorials to Chavez, not Cesar Chavez, to Che Guevara. They condemn Israel constantly. They voted for all illegals to vote, even though it's against the state constitution. The state constitution is irrelevant to them. They are one of the worst examples of the excesses of the party of slavery that we have in modern America. Are they worse in California? Maybe, maybe not. Don't know. So Adams got elected as the law and order candidate in a city that was becoming panicked by the increases in crime. All I can tell you is the increases in crime were nothing compared to the crime that I had when I was mayor. And even the increases weren't anything like the increases under David Dinkins. But New Yorkers had become correctly spoiled about crime because of me, because of Bloomberg, because of Bill Bratton, because of Howard Saver, because of Commissioner Kelly, and of course, my favorite, Bernie Kerik. Those were the 4 police commissioners in 20 years or so. And 2 consistent mayors who I began the reforms and did things nobody thought were possible and have never done before or after. And then Mike Bloomberg continued it and improved on it, only to be succeeded by a communist named de Blasio, who ruined everything about crime and about the city, including, over a period of time, restoring it to the crooked democratic city that it has been for most of its history. And that's what it is today. Adams took it over. I do not know whether Adams is guilty or not guilty of the various things that are rumored. I do know that all I can do as a former prosecutor, in fairness, is to react to the charges they brought. And I will tell you how the charges would have been described in my office, let's say back in 82, 83, when I was investigating the then Democratic mayor, Ed Koch. We would have looked at this and we would have said, you want me to prosecute the mayor for upgrades on his tickets? Tell me what he did for it. Did he get him like a $50 million contract, or he what? He expedited a building that should have been expedited anyway. And you're telling me you want to connect the two things. So in order to get the upgrades can we prove that he knew he was getting the upgrades? I don't know. I can't tell from the indictment. Doesn't look like they have direct proof. Did they connect the upgrades? Did they say, oh, Mayor Adams, or whatever he was then? He was a borough president then too. He wasn't even the mayor. Mayor Adams, if you want to get your upgrades, you better do that building for us. From the chronology of it, doesn't seem that way. I don't know if I'd even get that far before I went like this. I got to go after the top of the mafia, multi-billion-dollar crooks on Wall Street, corruption here, corruption there, corruption here, which they got now with Hochul. If he is corrupt, he's penny ante compared to her. But they don't even look at her because she is a loyal suck-ass for the Democratic Communists. And she's also a complete moron who's only there because her husband is going to cash in on the Buffalo Stadium, and nobody wants to look at it. Nobody wants to look at her very odd, suspicious campaign finance violations that are off the charts. But loyal Democrats are not investigated. Now, it may be that you committed a crime like Menendez. It looks like Menendez did what they said. He's convicted by a jury. I don't know the case to analyze it enough to tell you it was a bad, I have to conclude it was a bad jury verdict. Look, there are those. We know that. Even before Biden completely screwed up our justice system. The system is human. But usually when the person is convicted by a jury, there was a case, not usually, almost always, with a few exceptions. So there's not a connection between the two things. I can tell you that. And I think Ted can bear me out on this one, because I do believe, Ted, if my memory serves me correctly, and as you know, I have a very, very good memory. I'm really going to be lucky that if he answers this question, because Ted is being given food now. And when Ted gets food, he's like Raleigh. Raleigh's our famous dog, who, by the way, isn't here tonight. He's gonna stay in. He's gonna stay with his grandparents for a bit because we're traveling. Our shows next week are excitingly going to be in Europe.
Are dogs not allowed in Italy?
No, but I don't think he want. I don't think Stephen wanted to take him on the plane. And
he wouldn't take Raleigh. How they pack dogs.
But Italy,
on planes.
Italy and Serbia. I don't know. I would imagine they like. I think they
put him under. They put him in a cage underneath.
I can't imagine that Italians don't love dogs. They love everybody. So
yeah, that is romance.
So
question. You were going to ask me something.
So okay. So I don't know, what was it, about a year and a half or 2 years ago? I don't even remember. I think we were like in an airport, and we were traveling either home, or I think we were traveling home.
That's right.
And all of a sudden we heard that Mayor Adams had canceled his meeting at the White House because they had raided his chief assistant's office in the middle of the morning. And he had gone to Washington that day, but not by himself, with two other mayors, to make the case that Biden wasn't financing all of the illegals that he invited into the United States, that he was leaving the burden, the burden to the state and local governments. And he had been saying that for some time, but to little effect, meaning people weren't paying attention to it. But he brought two others with him. I can't remember for the life of me, but one of them was another black mayor. And if the third one was a black mayor, it would make my point even greater. And I knew immediately, even before it happened, I knew if he did it, he'd be in a lot of trouble, because he would raise it from an issue they were containing to a national issue. I mean, now, if all of a sudden all the black mayors stood up and said, what the hell are you doing, jerk? We got enough problems here. Like in Chicago, every weekend is a murder fest. And we're going to get 50,000 illegals who are murderers, half of whom are murderers. And they knew these were different kinds of illegals because they were when you have some degree of attention at the border to stopping people, you hold down the number of criminals to come in. Now you're going to get criminals, but you can say, like the New York Times says, like because they're jerk-offs, that the illegals were less likely to break the law than Americans. Yeah, guys, that was true 30 years ago. Now it's completely the opposite, because when you open a border, it would be ridiculous for the criminal organizations not to send their people in, or the terrorists, or anybody else who wants to do con jobs or organized crime, and particularly China. But I don't think you'd write that in the Times because you seem to be rather partial to China. But Ted, you reacted to it. You're the one who called my attention to it. Yeah. And I think you did it all in one sentence. That they raided the house of the chief aide.
Yeah,
and
he never made it to
he said, you can't believe he got to the steps of the White House and he turned around.
They got him.
And they had like canceled meeting with him about 3 times. Yeah. Remember? He was really he was actually complaining that Biden wouldn't meet with him.
Yeah, he put it on social media. He's on the plane.
Poor Adams began saying when Biden began popular, right? But I don't know, maybe Adams isn't that bright. But he began saying, "I will be the Joe Biden of the Bronx," and I was saying, "Are you crazy? Yeah. You're going to be the dumbest man in the Bronx? You're going to be the Joe Biden of the Bronx? You're going to be the biggest crook in the Bronx? You're going to be the biggest pervert in the Bronx? You're gonna go to the Bronx and go in the swimming pools and have little children touch the hair on your legs? Right. You're going to be the Joe Biden of the Bronx. Yeah, that's really smart, Adams." But then and who else thought that right away? The person who thought that right away has a lot more to do with this than we do. Because within a day or two, he called. Remember, he called me to ask me. Right. He called to ask me. Well, he called me once before when it first started with Adams. But he called me and he said, "What?"
That's right. I remember.
He said, "Tell me what you think of the whole Adams situation." And he said, "Well, that's exactly what I said." The minute I heard it, I said, "They're going after him like me and you."
Yep.
Or they go after me. I
remember this call.
And so I want you to focus on this. Now he's right, but whether he's right or wrong, when that gets in a man's mind, and you think somebody else is being treated unfairly, and then everything else you could see about the case would add to that, right? So they claim to have all these other cases and these contracts, but they never bring any charges. And then when they bring the charges, it's like, what? Where's the crime? I mean, what upgrades on tickets? Right. This guy was supposed to take bribes, and it's a charge. Maybe the best I could say for it, it's one you could or could not bring. You certainly would not be you would not be out of the ballpark exercising discretion not to bring the case.
Right.
So now we get to today. So now the charge is this, that the administration has done something unique and that's never been done before. And the lying assistant U.S. attorney who left, who is a disgrace to the U.S. Attorney's Office, really created this false impression. Like, wow, this never happens. Well, if you read Professor Dershowitz, who comes from the defense side, and if you don't believe me, you can believe him. He said this happens so often he can't even count. This is a regular practice. It's a regular practice to use criminal cases as leverage to get people to follow the law more effectively, leave office if they are a threat, both public and private. With a corporation, you might very well negotiate the resignation of the 2 executive officers, and the corporation takes the plea, not because you want to do it, but because you might lose the case. And if you lose the case, the crook is still there. Now, if this girl didn't know this, Is she so ignorant not to know
I don't buy it.
the Agnew case? Spiro Agnew, non-reader of American history, idiots,
Not your audience.
could have been prosecuted easily for $2,500 bribe, which actually was a piece of probably a much larger numbers of bribes that had been given to him when he was in the White House, but for his actions as Baltimore County executive. I think it was completely documented, the case. And instead of prosecuting him, they accepted his resignation from office and his promise not to go back into, or not his promise, but his commitment not to go back into office. They may have in some way, I have a faint recollection, they took a nolo contendere plea. Nolo contendere is a no plea. It's you don't plead guilty, you don't admit the crime, and you get some kind of a punishment, and the punishment can be probation. I think they did that. I'm not sure. But I certainly have done deals like that. I can't even remember them, how many I did. When I got a case that was 50-50 or something close to that, and you had a good case but not a compelling case, and you could achieve the result of getting the creep out of public office, you might take that in return for dropping the case, or you might take it for a undertaking to follow a law that the person wasn't following correctly. Now, if in fact what they say is true, that's what happened here. They dropped or suspended the charge, however you want to look at it, so that he follows the immigration laws. They didn't ask him for anything illegal. They asked him to follow the law. I can't imagine, except if it's the most remote U.S. attorney's office without any kind of sophisticated crime at all. There is a U.S. attorney that's been there more than a year that hasn't done this. So for her to create this impression, and then for all those brilliant, genius assistant U.S. attorneys to quit, tells me that office for quite some time was infested, and probably with a much worse case than any of them ever had of COVID, because they're all young and COVID really didn't threaten them. But their case of Trump derangement syndrome is of huge proportions and has destroyed any ability of them to think as lawyers, and has done a hell of a job on the reputation of my great office since Comey. I mean, it really has been downhill there since Comey prosecuted Martha Stewart because she's a celebrity. Now, again, was she guilty? Was she not guilty? Not a case you would bring if she weren't a celebrity. I know insider trading cases. I didn't start the prosecution of them, but I was sort of like Columbus. He didn't discover America, but he made it famous. I did start the RICOs, but I started the financial cases against Wall Street in a big way. Now, my office had been doing that for quite some time, but not in the way that I was doing it, not in the way that made the deterrent impression that we made and the ability to stop it. So I know the law of insider trading and really well, and I'm going to tell you about that. Insider trading is a crime that is not necessarily intuitive, meaning if you go to a bank and you ask to withdraw, nobody does that anymore, but you ask to withdraw $2,000 and the lady gives you $3,000 and you walk away and you decide you're going to keep it. You stole money. You know that. You know it's wrong. You know you should return it. Maybe you do it. Maybe you don't. Return it. If you go into a store and tell them, I'm going to bang you over the head unless you give me $100, you know it's wrong. You don't know that it's wrong. You might if you're sophisticated. You don't necessarily know that it's wrong. If somebody comes and gives you a tip about a stock, you don't necessarily know if it's wrong to trade. Even if you knew the person was inside the company, you might not know it. I mean, people are getting tips at the racetrack. I used to go to the racetrack. I was a pretty good handicapper. And people, they run around all the time. Watch horse number 2 or horse number 3. I was looking in the paddock. He's limping. Or I got a tip. This race is fixed for horse number 4. Now, I never followed any of them because they weren't worth much. But a lot of people just follow those tips like crazy. Well, so they do it to the stock market, or you get a great bargain on a house right down there. The people are very sick and they're going to sell the house at a bargain. You put that in the context of the law of securities, that could be a crime. So that's telling you that if you exercise discretion as a prosecutor, those are cases in which, if it's a financial professional, if it's a huge amount of money so that it's obvious, but by and large, first time insider trading, there's a whole civil penalty for it with the SEC, in which you pay a lot of money and you promise not to do it again. And now if you come back, I'm going to put you in jail. Based on the advice I got from Silvio J. Malo. If it's a closed case, if it's a tearjerker case, don't go with it. If the person's a criminal, they'll be back again pretty soon. That's applying to the terribly awesome responsibility of deciding whether to take a person's liberty, wisdom, and decency. And I got to tell you, we had 4 years of monsters, and the Southern District of New York wasn't too far off. And I credit it all with James Cardinal Comey looking for his fat face on television with Martha Stewart. Bet you didn't know that. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep green, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's Coffee.
To celebrate the new year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order...
We're back. Rudy Giuliani. So let me just give you one that I have here from one of these articles of the day or two ago. How about in the George W. Bush administration, the U.S. Attorney's Office for New Jersey required Bristol Myers Squibb to endow a faculty chair at Seton Hall University as part of a plea deal. That was the alma mater of Fat Christie. Nobody said anything about that. Damian Williams, you know who he is? Damian Williams was her boss.
Why do I know that name?
Was her boss. Yeah, he's the one who led the Trump derangement syndrome office and all the people who left. He entered into an agreement just like this with Morgan Stanley and the former head of its U.S. equity syndicate desk, Pawan Passi. Mr. Passi was accused of illegally funneling confidential information on clients for block sales of stock, which is illegal, to preferred corporate clients, knowing they would trade for profit on this information. So he was the source of the information for like Pelosi trade, insider trading. Despite clear evidence of crime, the prosecuting feds decided to let Mr. Passi and Morgan Stanley walk, but only after the investment bank coughed up $153 million to the public and agreed to remedial measures to straightening out the company. So here, you'd say, they have a marginal case on Adams, and they say, okay, if you follow the immigration laws and you help us with this terrible, terrible problem that we have of some unknown group of millions of people in this country, I can't tell you, they're all, I'm not going to say they're all criminals, but a disproportionate number being criminals, committing horrendous crimes like rape and murder, and then we won't prosecute you. Now, they didn't do that. Everybody involved, unless they're all lying, says it just happened. I'm going to tell you, Trump was going to pardon him no matter what. Trump identified emotionally and intellectually with what happened to him, because it's just what happened to him. I did too, because it's just what happened to me. Those bastards came after me. I didn't do anything. And they disbarred me, and I didn't do anything. I did my job as a lawyer, damn it. And I never did this to anybody, ever. I used to stay up at night thinking about the cases I was going to bring, so that, God forbid, I never had it on my conscience that I convicted an innocent man or woman. I hope I didn't. I certainly didn't do it knowingly. And if there was doubt, I dropped the damn case, no matter whether it was Martha Stewart or some homeless guy. I never saw any difference in my job between any of them. And when one time, but twice, people tried to exercise political influence, even got close. They got told right off immediately and thrown out. Wouldn't even get near it. Wanted me to open a case that would have interfered with an election. Threw them right out. Come back after the election. If it's true, it'll be true after the election. And another time they wanted me to warn a lawyer about an indictment in a case, a mafia case, in which there's a good chance the guy to run away. I almost always warn lawyers to let them come in, but not where I thought a guy'd run away, and certainly not a mafia killer. So I know the job. I know what makes an honest prosecutor, and I know what makes a scoundrel. These people are scoundrels. And when they can tell you lies like this, that there's some kind of unusual deal, when they've done these deals, their boss just did one, an $153 million crime. Read to you. I have this is Alan Dershowitz now. He's on the other side of the fence most of the time. I used to have cases against Alan when he was a practicing lawyer. Almost all of them prosecuted defense lawyer. And then occasionally I would debate him at his law school class. He would invite me there because we liked each other, even though he was a Dodger fan and a Red Sox fan, and I was a Yankee fan. That was harder to overcome than defense lawyer and prosecutor. Alan writes in the Post, I have represented numerous criminal defendants who were offered quid pro quos by the Southern District. That's the office that Madam Sassoon walked out in a huff. by the Southern and other prosecutors. The most common offer is, we will drop the charges against you if you testify or wear a wire against a higher up in your company or organization. Another common quid pro quo is, if you are willing to plead guilty, we will reduce the charges. Indeed, it is fair to say that quid pro quos in the form of plea bargains are essential to the operation of that or any other office, since the vast majority of prosecutions are resolved by quid pro quo plea bargains. Nor are there constitutional differences between the kind of quid pro quo allegedly offered Adams and the more traditional quid pro quo plea bargains offered to ordinary criminal defendants. They both involve personal benefits offered to a criminal in exchange for the defendant helping the government. The fact that the help sought here involves the quo that is outside of the specific case, help in enforcing deportation policy, makes no constitutional difference. Indeed, I'd argue it has a higher purpose. So this is all done like, oh gosh, you could go back to first time that Trump said there should be a fence, all of them on a dime, who were all in favor of a fence. We got all the video. Traded to his own people, Schumer, or insider trading Pelosi. They were all in favor of a fence until Trump was, all of a sudden the fence changed from the best way to keep people out to some kind of racism, because Trump had the idea of the fence. So Adams, now let me make clear to you, I did that discussion because I want to show you that the lawfare has not stopped. Tomorrow, I'm going to do something different like I used to do, and I'm going to try to start doing these again because I miss them. And I see the nice history that we had of these subjects going back to the January 6th and the night after January 6th, explaining to you how crooked it was, what they did inside, or bringing to you very, very early on the problems with COVID and vaccines, thanks to the hard work and ingenuity of Dr. Maria. And many of the things that we did have historic importance from those old podcasts. So I want to see if we can do maybe a podcast a week or two. And so we'll do one tomorrow and we'll put it on. We'll see what you think. I want to get your feedback on it. And we're going to do it on this whole issue of the lawsuits. I don't know, are they 40 or 50 that are being brought against the president to stop him from reining in the government, to stop him, let's use the cliche, to stop him from pursuing the waste, the fraud, and the abuse. Now, who would stop you from finding waste, fraud, and abuse? Wasters, fraudsters, and abusers and abusers, all right? But I'm going to show you how there is constitutional support. In some cases, absolutely 100% in his favor. In other cases, areas you'd want to test to find out how far you can go, which is quite legitimate, but very reasonable, very much in your interest. In a government that you know is spending unknown amounts of money that it shouldn't. I mean, New York could use it. Budget in New York State, tell you all the time, it's twice the budget of Florida. 110 million, 250 billion. 110 billion, 250 billion in Florida. Florida has 3-4 million more people, so it should have a larger budget. New York has per capita 2.5 times the budget of Florida. The services are not only not 2.5 times better, they're probably 2 times worse. So they're not providing better services. It all comes in the money they are spending in areas where you can produce kickbacks. Almost all of it. I mean, that's the factor by which New York is much more crooked than Florida. And when you find the federal waste, fraud, and abuse, it's going to be disproportionately fraud. most of what they found so far is, from the point of view of the people doing it, who maybe, don't have histories as prosecutors, alarming them because it seems like it's all fraud. This isn't like just wasted. I mean, we like to think the people that work for the government are dumb. They're not that dumb. Not when there's this kind of money floating around. When you see those, somebody should go back and take a look at PPP. A lot of miserable politicians got very wealthy off PPP. This may also explain how these people who work for government salaries all their life are worth $30 million. That's a trick. And they don't all trade on inside information and don't have it like Pelosi. I mean, she did it by one clear crime. So Trump really did a great thing for the people in New York. And, I'm going to thank him as a former New Yorker and also as someone who still retains tremendous amount of love for my former city and state. I'll probably always be identified more as a New Yorker than anything else, right? That's where I was U.S. attorney. That's where I was mayor. And that's where I lived my life until I started traveling after I was mayor. Well, after I was mayor, I honestly was a citizen of the world. I made 150 foreign trips to at least 90 different foreign countries. I was making up for lost time. So congestion pricing. There's only one. I mean, first of all, Hochul has got to say to herself, how come there's only one city in the country that has congestion pricing? And does congestion pricing make sense in a city that leads America or is in the top 5 in people leaving? Are they leaving because there are too many cars, or are they leaving because they are burdened too much with taxes? Which do you think is more important? How many people have you heard here in Florida, of which I think they're all from New York? I mean, I know. I told Stephen this the other night. I'll see if you can do any better. How is it possible that there are more New Yorkers here than in New York? It can't be possible, right? There have to be more New Yorkers in New York.
I meet more New Yorkers here in Palm Beach than I do Floridians.
Yeah.
That's what I like to say. But it's true.
Well, I think I meet more New Yorkers in here than in New York. New York takes a lot of people from Connecticut and New Jersey, and of course they think they're New Yorkers.
Right.
And okay, I accept them in one way. I used to resent them when I had to pay for their media market to put on my commercials. I'd have to pay like 2.5 times what it was worth to put them out in New York. You had to raise. That's why I had to raise so much money. That's why a lot of them become crooks. Not me, but a lot of them become crooks. Right? They started with illegal campaign contributions, and another thing that happens to politicians that's really sad. You used to talk to young ones and try to keep them from doing it, and that is that you make enough money to lead a middle class life, maybe even a little bit of an upper middle class life, because although the salary may be low, there are a lot of unforeseeable benefits that aren't illegal. So you're going to lead a little better life than if you were making $120,000 and working for a bank. But you're not going to be leading like a $1 million life, maybe $150,000 life.
Right.
They think they should be leading $1 million life because everybody they're governing, everybody they're bossing around, everybody that's coming to them for contracts and deals and is, driving around with 3 beautiful cars and has 2 houses and has a summer house, and maybe they don't have all that, and they think they're entitled to it. They think that somehow, because they're public officials, I should be making as much money as that guy. I can't tell you how that was the rationalization for a lot of people I put in prison. And isn't it crazy? You're not entitled to any more money because you're in government. And if you think that way, please don't be in government. Go make money. We don't need you. We don't need you. I mean, I've been at this long enough and been doing it long enough. I could look in a man or woman's heart now, and I can be about 90% certain if they're doing it because they love their country, their city, their county, their people, their children, and they're doing it for their children so their children have a better life, or they're doing it because they want money. They want to move up in their profession. there for just a little while so that they can make a lot more money at their law firm or their business. They're doing it because they can get a lot more attention, or they're doing it because they're really sick puppies and they need the attention. Schumer's got to be a sick puppy. I mean, the guy was knocking people over all over the place to get to the the joke, of course, with Schumer, right? Most dangerous place in Washington is be between Schumer and a camera. Now, if he were good looking, you could understand it. But I always thought every time he went on, he lost about 4 or 5 votes when you looked at him. And then if you heard him talk, that was even worse. Now, is he a smart guy? Absolutely. Schumer's a very, very bright guy. Was he a very productive member of Congress? Yep. Was he a productive member of the Senate for quite some time? Not quite some time. It sort of changed in the Senate. But yes, certainly while I was mayor. Did he turn like that because he's a coward and he's more interested in power, glory, and apparently money? Yeah. And did he turn on his own people, the people of Israel? 100%. Particularly when he interfered in the election, which should be a crime. But he got away with it because he's a Democrat. And he's a Democrat that sucked up as opposed to Adams. So congestion pricing apparently is in the discretion of the Secretary of Transportation. The last one didn't even know it was happening, little Petey, because he was off taking care of his children or whatever the hell else he did, which was not being in the Department of Transportation. I don't even know if little Petey knew what kind. He was still looking for East Palestine, right? I think he may be still waiting to talk to the mayor of East Palestine. When we left, the mayor had put off talking to him for an hour and talked to me instead. And I think he really extended the conversation with me. I felt like we were going over the same thing a couple of times. Just stick it to the little bastard because he hadn't come there and helped them. And because to the extent that he offered any advice, he knew what he was talking about. He didn't know anything about transportation. He knew anything about being a mayor. He was like 13 years old when he was the mayor. And he was a terrible mayor. I mean, what the Democrats lost somewhere with Clinton, starting with Clinton, or maybe this started with Obama, not sure. They lost any sense of merit. So they end up with people who are disproportionately dishonest and disproportionately stupid because they don't have to meet any criteria of merit. If you want to be a Republican in most everywhere but completely red districts, you got to be good. Like in New York, you want to be a Republican, you got to produce. You don't produce, they'll get rid of you. If you're a Democrat, you don't have to produce for your entire career. You could be a guy like Charlie Rangel. You could be in Harlem forever and place looks like a rat hole. Crime goes up. You walk out worth $30 million. How many Charlie Rangels are there? How many? What do you think? Think that's an aberration? So they pulled congestion pricing, and this is going to drive Hochul crazy. Now, it wouldn't drive her as crazy as if they canceled the concessions at the Buffalo Stadium, where her husband would not pull in the big multi-millions that they've been working for since she was a penny ante little county official, trying to justify putting the stadium back out, keeping it out in the suburbs, and not putting it in the city of Buffalo, where, my God, she might have improved the city of Buffalo. But why help all those black people, huh? Hochul? Why? Why help them? You got them. You got their vote. I mean, you sit there with laws to get them killed way more than they used to get killed in the past. I mean, how many people are out on the street? How many more got killed because of the bail law that you can't seem to change, or the discovery law that you can't seem to change, or the law that treats a 17-year-old or a 16-year-old like murder is like, well, just a little juvenile crime. It'll be fine. Who takes the brunt of that? Hochul? Black people do. And who is the benefit of you putting that stadium in the suburbs? You put a stadium in, it doesn't always work, But if you're industrious and you're smart, it can totally change a neighborhood around. I can show you examples of both. But man, I tell you one thing that should be a rule. Democrats should not be allowed to govern cities for 20 years until there's a school. I'd be happy to be the dean of teaching them how to be a mayor. Well, we'll take a short break and I'll be right back.
Wow, that would be one heck of a school. Going into break, I just want to give a quick update. 1-0 Canada.
Oh,
with just 3 minutes left.
the game?
The first period.
Oh, okay.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
Wow.
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast.
To celebrate the new year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order...
Hello, this is Rudy Giuliani, and this is America's Mayor Live. And Ted has checked on the hockey game. It's unfortunately the bad guys 1 and the good guys 0. Canada 1, America 0.
We got to get some. We got to get some noises or sound effects because it is now 1-1, all tied up. Team USA.
Who scored the goal?
Score. Let's see. And that happening just moments ago.
They're not going to.
So it's now 1-1. And so we'll get a live update here. 1-1. The USA has tied the game. Matthews gets it to the net from behind and slides through a defenseman's legs straight to Brady Tkachuk. Horses at home.
One of our fighters, the younger one. Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
we like that.
Walter, be happy. But this gets us to the point where it now is obvious that Walter should be in the Hall of Fame. We figured that out. So we'll get on the Walter Tkachuk for Hall of Fame.
That's right.
So I think we covered most of the things that I wanted to cover. A couple of little things I just want to warn you about so we can get off a little early tonight because I'm going to record a podcast. And I think I should do it now, but and I'm going to do it on the whole situation of executive. How much power does the president have to hire and to fire? And when is it that a position requires the advice and consent of the Senate? And when, as most positions in the government, it does not. And then if it does require the advice and consent of the Senate, can the president just fire that person? And if the House and Senate put restrictions on the ability to fire, are they allowed to do that? Or does that restrict the executive branch from making decisions that an executive would normally make. Now, you're going to find that the constitutional history on this is very, very bizarre and very contradictory, and the answers are not as obvious or as common sense as you think. But one of the things President Trump is doing by the actions they're taking, within 6 months or a year, it'll be all straightened out, and we'll know what the rules are and just how far the president can go or not go. And we'll also raise the question of, do we still need civil service if we have unions? People who are in unions don't have civil service. How do you, if you get double protection, it's like you're more protected than your boss. But you should know that the company, the number 2 company for making electric cars, has gone under, and that's Nikola. At one point, they believed to be worth more than Ford Motor Company. They are now worth nothing, which tells you an idea that the green agenda is very quickly going to hell, and as it should be, because it's the con agenda, and that we could give you, thousands of examples of that, but I don't know if that's going to be reported anywhere, any place. Just to remind you that disproportionate number of these people are criminals, a gang of Chilean nationals. Now, we haven't seen that come up too often, right? We see Venezuela, we see Mexico, criminals. We see them from the Golden Triangle, Guatemala. Not too many from Honduras that we've seen. I mean, that I've seen at least. But these are from Chile. And it's a large group of them. It's 7 illegal immigrants are charged with a string of robberies that involved at least $2 million plus in valuables from high-profile athletes, including the NFL stars Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce of the Chiefs, Joe Burrow of the Bengals. The illegal immigrants are all, in their 20s except one. Pablo Zuniga Cortez, Ignacio Zuniga Cortez, Bastian Jimenez Ferrat, Sergio Ortigo Cabala, who was 38, have all been arrested, and an indictment in Tampa, Florida. But they were committing these crimes in various different states in a very well organized ring. And those are the ones that they were caught doing. And, $2 million that you can account for in an indictment usually means there was a lot more. So thank you, Joe, for letting them all in from Chile. That's really nice, but at least they didn't rape anybody, huh? There's also an article in the in the Wall Street Journal that I really would like to debate the guy. And if he's out there or you know him, tell him I'll debate him anywhere, anytime, anyplace. His name is Jason M. Balazakis. Now, what does Jason do? Jason is a professor at the Middlebury Institute of International Studies at Monterey. He is the former director of the U.S. Counterterrorism Finance and Designations Office from 2008 to 2018. So that's mostly under Obama. This guy is against designating cartels as terrorist groups. And now there are arguments that you could make against it. There are certain things that it could interfere with. He doesn't know them, because the things that he raises are absolutely silly. So, and by the way, this guy has got to be a silly, crazy, soppy, crying liberal, because I'm going to tell you how he ends it, and it gives the whole. You should really put the end at the beginning, and you wouldn't read the article. There are better ways to fight drug addiction than designating people who sell billions of dollars in fentanyl as terrorist groups. There are better ways. Okay, Jason, what are they? Including educational and medical approaches. Oh yeah, man, you do educational medical approaches, those cartels are going to run for the hills. They're going to say, Jason's coming after us with educational and medical approaches. We're not going to sell our $2 million worth of fentanyl there. Too much education, too much medicine. Those aren't alluring policies. But the bling of FTO designations and the use of force will make the problem worse. What is this, a sissy? In the article, it says the Mexican government opposes the designation of the cartels as FTOs, as foreign terrorist organization. Well, of course they do. Why do you think they do, Jason? Because the Mexican government is even more corrupt than New York. Has been for years. Corruption in Mexico is like corruption in Ukraine, except it actually reaches, the government is probably not as corrupt as Ukraine, but it gets more into the society. I did crime reduction in Mexico City very successfully for the former president, then the mayor. And we got fired because we were successful. You've asked Bernie. We were bringing crime down and they got nervous. Or the cartels reached them because they didn't want us to do the same thing we did in Colombia, where we helped destroy the FARC and they threatened to cut my throat. And we did it with, bringing medicine in and books. We used to hold the books up and the cartels used to run across the border. What are you, a jackass? Here's the answer to it, and it's real simple. People always asked me way back in the 70s and the 80s when I was conceiving the ideas that created the biggest crime reduction in the history of any city anywhere. So I think I know a little more than this jerk in opposing there being foreign terrorist organization and using as a support for it that Mexico opposes it too. Yeah, a corrupt government opposes it. That's really helpful, Jason. Why the hell do you think they oppose it, you naive idiot? They oppose it because the cartels own them. Either own them by money or frighten the hell out of them. I mean, I've been in homes in Mexico where it's harder to get into the home than the White House. Now, there are people that when they're in Mexico for the period of time, they don't go out. And at the border, the cartels own the place. You're not. So, real simple explanation. If you want to reduce drugs or reduce crime, you got to do it immediately, and that requires law enforcement. You're not doing it through education and medicine short term. You begin your education and medicine program, you're not going to see a big reduction in the first 5 weeks. First year, maybe 2. But if you're reducing the supply and you're reducing the demand, it gets to be a point where the demand reduction is gets more important than the supply. When the supply is down to something you can rationally control. It makes sense? And I can show you that in New York because people credit us a lot with the crime reduction being the police. They don't credit us a lot in what's called the softer areas, like we reduced welfare and unemployment more than any other mayoral administration ever. And we reduced crime more than any other mayoral administration ever. Doing both of those is what made the crime reduction last through my administration and Mike Bloomberg's, only to be destroyed when de Blasio came in. They defunded the police. They got rid of workfare. They got rid of any standards in education. And they increased the city to the highest level of dependency it's ever been. By the way, it is now at the highest level of dependency. And they started making welfare more valuable than work. And the crime came right back. So, Jason, I don't think you debate me, but you don't know what the hell you're talking about. And the Wall Street Journal putting this here is like putting in cartel propaganda. It's a dangerous move, conflating criminal groups with terrorist organizations. Oh, yeah, that's really dangerous. The FTO does provide some prosecutorial leverage by adding extra consequences. Yeah. Number one, you put them in jail longer. Number two, most importantly, you take their assets away. But he's afraid of that because there might be a lot of innocent people that get hurt, the people who supply the drug dealers. Well, I don't know. If you supply drug dealers, you should kind of find out about it so you don't do it. Well, we're gonna keep to our promise of getting out, and we'll be back tomorrow at 7, and then we'll probably have our podcast tomorrow at 8 on this very important issue that you really, I think, want to understand, and that is their continued lawfare, which is going to continue throughout. This is going to go into other phases and other times. But right now, it's to really stop the reduction in waste, fraud, and abuse, because that is the source of the wealth for all these Democrats who walk out worth 20 or 30 million when they should be worth, the same amount of money any normal person is who makes 120,000, 130,000 a year. And that's what they're fighting for. They're fighting for their control over people and their ability to become extraordinarily wealthy by stealing your money. Otherwise, anybody is in favor of reducing waste, fraud, and abuse. Well, thank you very much, and pray for the people of Israel and pray for the people of Ukraine. They're moving closer, believe it or not, to a deal. And if they can move out this crook Zelensky, they got a future. Because they have to get a reform president. As I said, they've had like 7 or 8 presidents. They've had one honest one, only 4 years. That was a while back. Since then, it's been one crook after another, or a servant of the crooks, which is the way, at a minimum, we would describe little Zelensky. And thank you to the American hockey players for recognizing that nobody gets to boo the national anthem. Nobody. God bless America. It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply